Scoodly doodly doo, it's time for another Welsh review. Scoodly doodly doo doo.
Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to the Welch Review. Today, what are we talking about, Stefan?
So today, we're keeping with the whole alignment of like giant monsters. We're talking about Monster Hunter.
Yeah, so before we get into, get into the stuff, and then we'll talk a little bit about a background for Monster Hunter.
Alright, so this movie stars Mila Jovovich, possibly spelled, or pronounced Jovovich, so I've been pronouncing her name wrong for years.
I'm pretty sure it's Jokovic.
Jokovic? Okay. Well, she got the double V. You also have Tony Jaa in here. Mila Jovovich. Mila plays a character called Artemis. Tony Jaa plays the hunter. Ron Perlman. It's good to see Ron Perlman in like big budget things, man. I like Ron Perlman. He plays the admiral. You have Tip T.I. Harris, right, as Lincoln. Diego Bonita as Marshall. Megan Good as Dash. Josh Hellman as Steeler. G.I. Yang as Axe, Hirona Yamazaki as Handler, Yannick Schumann as Aiden, Nanda Costa as Leah, and Nick Rosenti as Captain Rourke. And music was by Paul Haslinger. It's based on the video games written and created by Konami Fujioka. And this is written and directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who you might know from Event Horizon. He made that, was his big one. He made the original Mortal Kombat film.
Oh,
the first
wow.
one, not the second one. Resident Evil 1 through 6, Pompeii, and Soldier with Kurt Russell. And as I'm sure most of you know, he is married to Mila Jovovich. And this just seems to be what they do. He makes a comic book film, and she's instantly in said movie.
Yeah.
He also made Three Musketeers, and she was in that. But Tony Jaa, you might know Tony Jaa from the Protector movies, or On Bak, right? Which is like Thai mixed martial arts. Ron Perlman, Hellboy. T.I. is a rapper, but he's also been in some movies. He plays Dave in the Ant-Man films as one of the robbers who Paul Rudd's character Scott hangs out with. Megan Good, right? We've been talking about the Love Guru. She plays the girl.
Yeah.
That
he's into.
That not that Mike Myers is into. He's trying to get that the hockey guy's wife. She plays the wife, and he's trying to get her back.
Okay.
And then what else is cool is this movie is produced by Toho Studios, which is the same company that created and produced Godzilla.
Yeah, that is
So
cool.
it's pretty cool.
So they have big monster background.
And then, as you guys might know, this is a video game series, so I'm sure maybe some of you out there played it. Sam, I know you played Monster Hunter. I'm only familiar with the movie and from watching you play it periodically.
So basically, it's what it sounds like. There's big monsters, and you take really big weapons and you murder them. And then you make armor and weapons out of their skin, and then you use those weapons to kill bigger things and do the same thing. Rinse, repeat. And normally there's a storyline to it, like you're trying to destroy one big monster that's causing a lot of issues, or something along those lines. I've actually never beaten a Monster Hunter game just because they're really long.
Right.
But they're a really good time. If you like beating up giant monsters with your friends, then you can't really go wrong. But as far as this movie goes, it has kind of a weak plot. I guess it's not horrible, but it starts off Mila Jovovich, who's in the army, and she's like a captain, and her team drive through a portal in the desert, which also has nothing to do with Monster Hunter. There's no Monster Hunter game where you get brought to another world to fight giant monsters.
Okay.
So that's completely designed by the film, and the idea is that you're supposed to identify with her, right? You're supposed to identify with the fact that she's not from the Monster Hunter universe. Personally, I think that detracts from the universe itself, right? It detracts from the immersion, because instead of being like Star Wars, where they just kind of put you into the experience, right? You're automatically there, and they try to relate you to it through like character actions.
Yeah.
It happens. They're trying to basically go based off of identity, right? Like, oh look, she's an American. You know, you should identify with her because you're American. And like, if you go for that, that's fine. But we're gonna keep going on with the plot. So she goes into this other world with her crew. Basically, her entire team gets wiped out in the first 5 minutes by some giant monsters. So I hope you didn't like T.I. because he's dead.
Because it's the spoilers.
Yeah, well, not even really. This is like the first 10 minutes of the film. Like...
Yeah, I mean, basically, he's honestly the only other big name within the unit. You know what I mean? Most of the other people are maybe been in a handful of things. So I would argue in some cases he might even have a bigger name than Mila Jovovich.
In a lot of ways, probably.
But like, yeah. So basically, the herd is cleansed real quick, so the focus is just her.
Yeah, so you just have Mila Jovovich. You also get brought on this cutscene essentially where a sand boat crashes or doesn't crash, but
it's attacked by Diablos.
It's attacked by these monsters called Diablos and Tony Jaa.
And Ron Perlman.
Tony Jaa falls off the boat.
Yeah.
And he winds up on like this rock island in the middle of a sand desert.
Can I just say that the whole boat and sand thing was stupid?
Oh, well, that's kind of like a thing from the game.
Yeah, but it just seems dumb because like they're sailing on the sand, but then it just shows people running on the sand, and it's just like, I don't know, man. To me, it just seems stupid. Like, if you're trying to do the whole water sand type deal,
then you think they should sink in the sand.
I kind of thought they should sink in the sand, or like they should levitate above the sand, not like in the sand.
I'm fine with sand boats.
You're okay with sand boats?
Yeah, I think they're cool.
I don't know, like Star Wars. You mentioned Star Wars. They had like the sand boats, but like
they're not fantasy. They're sci-fi.
I mean, in a way, it's sci-fi fantasy.
No, Monster Hunter is just fantasy.
I don't know.
They have giant weapons and they murder monsters. That's fantasy.
I got you, but I guess I'm just saying it seemed dumb.
Well, you can continue to think that. But continuing on from this debate about sand boats, Tony Jaa's on this rock island.
This rock island in the desert.
In the desert ocean. The desert ocean. And then Mila Jovovich, only person who survives the attack from her crew, also winds up on Desert Island, but is like not doing well. And then she fights Tony Jaa, and Tony Jaa kind of whoops her. And then eventually they become friends after fighting and almost getting eaten by giant spiders. And their goal becomes to destroy the Diablos that's kind of hunting them and trapping them on this island, so that they can escape. And what's her name? Mila Jovovich
Artemis
is like, I want to go home. So she's just trying to get home, but on the way she learns how to fight like a monster hunter. She gets some big swords. It's very like bad Batman cutscene where it's like, hey, look at me look at my Bat credit card and my Bat nipple armor and my Bat belt.
I was gonna say this is kind of like a really like the Wizard of Oz. If they just added, because think about it, right? Dorothy is sent to another dimension, right? And Artemis is in this other dimension, and she's just trying to get home, right? And there's a thing I guess we could cut to, so like when they get to the spot, right? When like Dorothy gets to the wizard, right? Like to go home, right? Artemis gets there, and then like she does get home, but then there's like a cutscene of like some random dude in a cloak, and we don't know what that dude's business is.
Oh yeah,
so it's kind of like a really like, let's just do Wizard of Oz, but instead of munchkins, we have monsters.
Well,
they fight each other.
Well, why wouldn't it just be instead of the Wicked Witch of the West, you have dragons?
Same idea.
But the Munchkins don't try to murder Dorothy.
In this one, the Munchkins are the spiders who do try to murder Dorothy.
That doesn't sound like it's fun. Why can't the Munchkin be the cat? Did we mention there's cat people? That's just Monster Hunter for you, but there's cat people. And by cat people, I don't mean like anything weird. I mean like, well, I guess it's weird, but like people, well, cats that are bipedal, and like for all other intensive purposes are cats. but they can cook and fight and stuff.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I appreciate the cat people.
I feel like if there's maybe a little bit more cat people and less like desert islandy stuff.
Well, I think that they should have tried. Okay, so like getting off of plot, because I guess we've kind of pretty much covered that without giving away too much.
Well, yeah, when you said like I want to go home, so it's
yeah.
basically them
She's trying to get home, and then the people who she winds up meeting, her Tin Man and Scarecrow.
Yes, dude. See, Tony Jaa gets back with his crew.
Basically, they're trying to murder a thing and destroy the portal. So they have parallel desires, kind of, and they go on a journey to get home.
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. But, unlike the Wizard of Oz, there's not a defined bad guy throughout the entire film. There's just a couple of different monsters.
Yep.
There aren't really any heroes, because they're kind of just killing monsters. Like, you know what I mean? Like, their goal is very, like... I don't want to say shallow, but...
It's one note.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, we got this one thing to do. There's no twists. Everything is very direct, which I guess isn't bad, but it's not that interesting.
No, this is definitely not something where it's like, oh, you have to check this out because like X, Y, and Z. Like the special effects are pretty good, right? It's cool seeing the monsters, especially like if you play the game, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Right, like it ideally looks more lifelike, more realistic. But I mean, or you want to see like Super Saiyan Cave Bear Ron Perlman, like that's okay.
It was horrible, man. I love Ron Perlman, but I hated the way his character looked. It was way too over the top. I mean, in Monster Hunter's an over the top kind of game, but Ron Perlman looked really stupid.
Yeah, he did, and they also made it so like, oh, the only white guy there somehow knows how to speak English when he's not from that dimension.
Yeah.
So
they go out of their way to be like, oh, there hasn't been a person here for years, like hundreds and hundreds of years from your dimension. And then they're like, but I know how to speak English, though, don't worry about it.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, so you're just ham-fisting in, like, more mythos and story. And it's like, this doesn't really naturally fit.
No, I think realistically the movie would have benefited a lot from just not having that storyline, like the storyline of her being from a different dimension. They could have kept like destroying the portal, but maybe had it be like there's some kind of invaders coming through that they have to destroy the portal for, or something like that, something more rooted in their own world. And at the same time, like, sure, giant monsters are bad, and if they were to come to our world, that would be bad. But they don't really play that up at all. Like, it's a side note that they, like, talk about for, like, a little bit.
Right.
But also, we have, like, missiles and crap. Like, they're killing these with big swords. We have missiles and tanks.
Right.
Like, what are these monsters gonna do to us? Nothing. They just die.
No, and that's a solid point, right? It doesn't really seem like it's a concern they're really thinking about. It's just like, I gotta get home. We need to close the portal, right? And it's like, all right, like, that's cool. But, like, I also thought it was, you mentioned not defined bad guy, right? And that's true, right? The monsters they're fighting, I thought it was kind of stupid, right? Like, it's like, oh, we need to get to this tower. And it's just like, you just get into a tower.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no hype. And I guess I see what he's trying to do, right? Because in the post-credit scene, right, it shows them then, like, possible room for growth, right? For this to be a franchise, which I don't think is a bad thing, right? But I don't think Paul W.S. Anderson should try and make every film he makes a franchise.
I think that one of the other issues is that in the Monster Hunter games, a lot of the times when you're fighting monsters, it's like your daily routine, right? It's your job. Like, you go out, you hunt some monsters, you come back home, right? They're not bad guys. They just exist. So posing them as the bad guys constantly throughout the film doesn't, one, it doesn't, like, relate to the game that well, and two, it's hard to do because they don't have any, like, negative intentions. Like, they're not like trying to murder a whole group of people. They're not like, you know, they're like, oh, I am an animal. I will go and eat. I will go and eat some food,
Right.
and then I go to sleep, and that's my day. You know, like, it's just hard to always feel like, oh, Mila Jokovic, yeah, go get him. Because sometimes I'm like, I hope that dragon eats her, because it's a majestic creature, and it deserves to live. You know what I mean? I don't know. I did not connect with, like, basically any of the characters in this. Like, Tony Jaa's obviously cool as hell, but he also doesn't speak English throughout the entire film, and he can speak English, and they don't even do, like, the subtitles translate what he's saying thing.
Right.
He just literally speaks in a different language, and for, like, 30 minutes, it's just her and him, and he does not speak a lick of English or get any subtitles throughout that entire period of time.
And so it's like you can't really connect with him that way. I would argue though, like obviously acting is not something I think really that's associated with this
Tony.
movie.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
movie in general, but I would argue Tony Jaa, what he can do physically, right? And like the emotions he can bring with his face, like especially when they were in his like cave setup, right? And he was talking about like those statues and why they're important to him. Or while he was trying to show why, though, I would argue he showed a lot of emotion in his face, you know, with his body language,
Yeah.
which I think is the best acting I could say this movie has going for it. Otherwise, it's just like, like, I mean, they had Mila Jokovic try and sing like an army song, right, to like motivate the troops or something, and it just seemed like she was like, "Yep, we're gonna sing." The song, like there was no emotion or anything behind it. It was just her saying the words, and they're like, "Yeah, that's a wrap. First scene, one and done. Let's get out of here." You know, so it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like what? Like I don't consider myself overly patriotic. You know what I mean? But like, even in like war movies, right? Like you root for the guys who like you know when they actually seem like they believe it. I don't really feel like she believed she was a soldier. You know what I mean? I don't really think all of them believed they were a soldier. Like, T.I. is joking about dying or something in the band, and it's just like, well, that's not funny.
That's actually just foreshadowing, because 10 minutes later in the film, he dies.
That's true. And okay, so I see that point.
I'm just kidding. It was a joke.
Well, but it's true. It is foreshadowing, but it's just like, it's not funny. It's not funny humor.
Yeah.
You know, like, that doesn't make any sense.
I actually like their sing-along time, but I agree that, They did the thing where, like, you bring on a cast of characters just to murder them immediately, and it's almost like, why'd you even bring them on? Like, it's one thing if you build them up throughout the film.
Yeah.
Get the crowd attached to them, and then kill them off. But, like, this lady's a military commander. These are supposed to be, like, her closest friends, right? These are her soldiers, the people directly under her. And they die, and she doesn't give a damn about them. Like, they die, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts in her mind throughout the rest of the film about all of her friends being murdered in front of her. So, like, I guess you're not really looking for emotional impact in a film about murdering giant monsters.
Right.
But it just wasn't there. Like, there was no connection in between our main character and these other side people who existed for, like, literally 12 minutes. So, yeah, I don't know. This movie has a whole bunch of useless characters. The characters that are important, 90% of them can't speak English. The one who can speak English looks like the dumbest character anybody's ever conceived. The main character is Mila Jokovic, and that's a problem.
That's a problem.
And yeah, just like all around, it's not great. If you want to see giant monsters, go and check it out. It's got big monsters that eat things.
It's got big monsters that eat things.
And they die.
That's really all it has going for it.
Yeah, and one thing that it does do well is, aside from this whole separate dimension-y thing, the monsters are portrayed well, the armor, the weapons are portrayed well, the different like
Locations?
fauna and fauna of Monster Hunters, like the animals and like the subhumans, which are like the cat people, right? Those are all portrayed very well and accurately to the game. But aside from that, it's like a very hollow movie with the very nice skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A very nice cover, good paint job to make it look pretty.
I would also say that the music by Paul Hasslinger was really good.
Oh,
right?
you like the music?
Like I thought it was good. Like
I didn't remember any.
it was basically just like techno. You're just like, yes!
Yeah.
You know, you bob your head while they're doing a fight scene, and you're like,
going.
do it! Like, so you kind of look forward to it just to hear, like, oh, they're fighting. Okay, cool. Like, you could dance a little bit, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Sam said, you're looking for just monsters. It is what it is.
It's not a good film.
Let's just leave it at that. Not a good movie.
Enjoy.
This has been the Welch Review.
Glad you came in.
We'll see you next time.